sadly for funerals or court cases.
For a long time, returning to the United Kingdom safely no longer felt possible for Harry. The final layer of royal security he believed still connected him to the monarchy disappeared quietly, not through a public announcement, not inside a courtroom, and not by an official palace notice, but after a single private phone call made by William. In that instant, the relationship between two brothers shifted into something far more formal. What had once been a family disagreement became a matter of royal responsibility, leaving Harry to face a future without the safeguard he never imagined would be taken away. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another update. Harry did not react with anger when he received the news. He did not immediately return the call. Instead, he remained motionless, staring at the phone in silence, a silence that revealed far more than words ever could. Deep down, he understood this was never only about security. It was about whether he still belonged. It was about whether the family he had stepped away from still believed he deserved protection when circumstances became dangerous. For years, one remaining palace-connected security arrangement had quietly stayed in place. It served as a private coordination system for sensitive visits, family-related travel, and occasions when royal attention could create additional risks. In simple terms, palace-connected protection referred to security support linked to royal systems rather than ordinary private arrangements. To Harry, that final connection represented more than practical safety. It became the last sign that the door to his former royal life had not been completely shut. But William was no longer the same man. The brother who once carried personal hurt in silence had grown into the prince responsible for safeguarding the future of the crown. The crown, in this sense, represents the monarchy itself, the institution expected to endure beyond personal emotions and family disagreements. That morning, William stood outside a private office, speaking calmly and carefully. Without hesitation, he placed one direct phone call to the royal security liaison and approved the removal of Harry's remaining palace-linked protection arrangement. The royal security liaison, the official responsible for coordinating protection decisions between palace offices and security teams, offered no resistance. The instruction was straightforward. The protection would come to an end. The palace would never describe the move as punishment. Such wording would have made the decision appear emotional, and emotional decisions could always be questioned. Instead, officials classified it as a risk status adjustment, an administrative phrase indicating that Harry's official security category had changed because his current role within the royal family no longer matched the level of access he previously received. Those carefully chosen words hurt more than any accusation. They sounded final, clinical, and impossible to challenge. Harry read the notice again, hoping to find even a hint of compassion hidden between the lines. There was none. Then came the deeper shock. Charles had been aware that the call was about to happen. More importantly, he had chosen not to prevent it. The moment Harry realized William had not acted entirely on his own, the issue stopped being just a security matter. It became something much more painful, a reckoning within the family itself. Behind the decision stood three men, each carrying a different version of the same heartbreak. Harry viewed it as betrayal. William believed he was fulfilling his responsibility. Charles saw the slow collapse of a family he had spent years trying to keep together through patience, distance, and silence. This time, however, silence protected no one. That single phone call forced years of unspoken resentment into the open, and each of them understood that the old way of handling family conflict could no longer survive. Harry had spent years away from the daily responsibilities of the monarchy, yet a part of him still believed that family ties came with certain guarantees. He thought he could step away from royal duties, criticize the institution, and still expect one final layer of protection to remain untouched. That belief made the decision feel especially devastating. It was never simply about security vehicles, travel routes, officers, or official arrangements. To Harry, it felt as though he had finally been pushed beyond the circle of royal belonging in a way that no newspaper headline had ever achieved. William understood exactly what that loss would mean, and that knowledge made the decision even heavier. He was no longer only the brother wounded by public interviews, private accusations, and deeply personal grievances. He had become the future king. A future king is expected to place the monarchy above personal emotion, even when the difficult decision affects someone within his own family. After ending the call, William showed no sign of celebration. He remained seated in silence, his hands motionless, fully aware that he had crossed a line which might never be repaired between the two brothers. Charles had already received a confidential briefing before the decision was carried out. A briefing is a private report prepared for the monarch before an important palace action. It outlined the potential risks, the growing pressure, and the consequences of delaying the matter any longer. The king listened carefully. He asked only a few quiet questions. Then he did the one thing Harry would later struggle to forgive. He allowed the process to continue without objection. That silence spoke louder than any official statement ever could. Charles still cared deeply for his son, but the king's compassion could only extend so far when royal security, public confidence, and William's authority were all pointing in the opposite direction. Soon afterward, a senior palace aide prepared an updated access protocol, the internal guideline used to determine who qualifies for palace-linked support and under what circumstances. The document made one thing unmistakably clear. This decision had not appeared overnight. It had been waiting quietly in the background until William finally chose to put it into effect. When Harry later demanded to know what gave his brother the authority to remove his final layer of protection, the answer did not begin with that phone call. Instead, it traced back to one earlier incident hidden from public view, an event the palace would eventually regard as the true point from which there was no turning back. The palace had not reached this conclusion overnight. The final separation had quietly begun several weeks earlier during a private remembrance gathering at Windsor. The evening was intended to remain respectful, peaceful, and centered on family reflection. Instead, a single exchange near its conclusion changed everything. William noticed the moment first. Charles observed it without saying a word. Harry, perhaps unknowingly, had provided the palace with the justification it would later rely upon. He arrived carrying years of unresolved disappointment behind a calm expression, and for much of the evening he appeared willing to avoid conflict. The gathering held special meaning because it focused on family remembrance rather than public royal duties. That made every conversation feel far more personal. A Windsor Remembrance Gathering refers to a private royal event held to honor an important family memory or legacy. It exists to preserve dignity, not reopen old disagreements. Near the end of the evening, however, Harry approached a senior security advisor and requested unrestricted protection support for future family-related visits. The senior security advisor, the official responsible for guiding royal security planning, attempted to keep the discussion measured and professional. Harry remained firm. He wanted certainty. He wanted continued access. Most importantly, he wanted acknowledgement that even outside official royal service, he still faced risks beyond those of an ordinary private citizen. William overheard enough of the exchange to reach his own conclusion. He did not hear a brother asking for safety. He heard someone expecting royal privileges without carrying royal responsibilities. That perception hardened his position. Harry would later maintain that he had only been trying to protect his own family. William interpreted the situation differently. He saw expectation without service. Access without trust. Protection without accountability. It became a conversation about loyalty, separation, responsibility, and whether the monarchy had finally drawn a permanent line between itself and Harry. The palace attempted to respond with measured restraint. The public did not. A single headline, growing public reaction, and one widely discussed television comment transformed a private family matter into a national talking point. Harry watched the coverage unfold and felt exposed before anyone close to him had spoken. The disappointment he had hoped would remain private was now being examined by millions. Automatic palace-linked protection refers to security support connected to royal systems without requiring fresh approval for every visit. Its removal sent a clear message to the public. Harry's previous level of royal access had officially come to an end. Palace representatives described the change as a routine administrative adjustment, explaining that his current position no longer matched the level of protection previously provided. Yet no carefully written statement could hide what many people believed the decision truly represented. It was never viewed as simple paperwork. To many observers, it symbolized the monarchy acknowledging that stepping away from royal duties also carried lasting consequences. William observed the public reaction from inside the palace. He understood that reversing course would make the decision appear emotional rather than principled. He believed he had acted as the future king, and a future king could not make a difficult decision one day only to soften it the next because public opinion demanded it. Even so, there was no sense of triumph. Then one image captured national attention. A London newspaper featured a striking black and white photograph of Harry beside the headline. "The final shield falls." Those 4 words carried more emotional weight than countless official explanations. They transformed an internal security decision into a lasting symbol of separation. Soon afterward, a television commentator described the moment as the day brotherhood gave way to succession. Succession refers to the passing of royal responsibility from one generation to the next. In that interpretation, William's commitment to duty had outweighed Harry's expectation of family loyalty. Public opinion quickly divided. Some believed, others argued that Harry was simply experiencing the consequences of leaving royal service while still expecting royal protection. Inside the royal family, however, the decision had already been settled. The phone call would stand. The protection would not return. And when the public debate eventually quieted, one conclusion remained impossible to ignore. This was not only about what Harry had lost. It also revealed what the monarchy had chosen to become. In the end, the phone call did far more than change Harry's security arrangements. It exposed how complete his separation from the royal family had become. William chose responsibility over personal emotion. Charles chose the future of the monarchy over stepping in to reverse the decision. And Harry discovered that the final invisible connection linking him to palace privilege could, in fact, be removed. Once it disappeared, no one inside the institution attempted to restore it. The decision remained in place. Harry's last palace-connected protection arrangement had officially ended following William's call, and Charles allowed the outcome to stand without interference. Palace-connected protection refers to security support provided through royal systems rather than ordinary private arrangements. Losing that support meant Harry no longer benefited from the automatic safeguards once associated with his royal position. That mattered because the issue had never been limited to travel routes, official access, or security planning. At its heart, it questioned whether stepping away from royal responsibility could still preserve the sense of belonging that once came with it. The palace presented the outcome as an act of institutional discipline rather than personal retaliation. Institutional discipline refers to controlled action taken to preserve order and consistency rather than settle personal disputes. Harry was left carrying disappointment, frustration, and one unavoidable realization. He finally understood exactly where he now stood. He remained a son. He remained a brother. But he no longer enjoyed the quiet assumption that royal blood alone would always keep one final door open. William experienced the outcome differently. Although the decision had gone forward, there was no celebration. He understood that preparing for kingship often begins long before wearing the crown. Kingship means accepting responsibilities that leave lasting personal scars, even when those decisions involve the people closest to you. Charles's silence ultimately became the strongest confirmation of all. The king still felt compassion for his son. Yet compassion could not outweigh sovereign responsibility. Sovereign responsibility is the monarch's obligation to place the stability of the crown above private emotion. By allowing the decision to remain, Charles demonstrated that duty would come before personal feeling, no matter how painful the cost. That became the deeper message hidden beneath every headline. Royal protection was never only about physical safety. It represented belonging, trust, service, and the consequences of stepping away while still expecting the institution's protection to remain. This moment marked the emotional conclusion of Harry's protected connection to royal life. He was not removed from the family itself, but he was separated from the automatic protection that had once accompanied his royal position. In doing so, the monarchy demonstrated that preserving the institution would take priority, even when the cost involved a son, a brother, and a relationship that had once seemed unbreakable. There was no hidden safeguard left to restore. No final privilege waiting quietly behind the scenes. No gentler version of reality. William's phone call brought an end to the last palace-connected protection Harry believed still remained. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our future updates. We'll see you in the next video.